Picture this. You're alone, walking through the dark. The wind cuts through the trees, sharp and cold, and then you hear it. A low, guttural growl, a rustle too steady, too close to be just the breeze. Your mind screams it's nothing, but deep down, you feel it. Something's out there, something that doesn't fit in our world. That's where we're going today. I've got 3 stories, real accounts from real people, about encounters with things they can't explain. Cryptids, creatures, shadows that slip between myth and nightmare. These aren't fairy tales spun around a campfire. They're moments that left people questioning everything they thought they knew. From a hiker stalked in the woods, to a driver lost in the fog, to a basement hiding something alive. These stories will stick with you. Believe them or not, that's your call. Let's begin. I decided to hike alone through the dense pine forests of northern Michigan. Just me, my tent, and endless wilderness all around. I'd done solo trips like this before, so I wasn't nervous. My plan was straightforward. A few nights under the stars, surrounded by nothing but trees and quiet. It sounded perfect. But by the 3rd night, that quiet turned into something else. Something that made me realize I wasn't alone out there. Those first 2 days were peaceful, almost too peaceful looking back. I set up camp in a small clearing where pine needles covered the ground, so thick I couldn't even hear my own steps. The air was sharp and cool, the sky clear, and the forest felt still. At night I'd sit by my fire, listening to it crackle. There were no owls, no rustling, just this deep, heavy calm. I thought it was relaxing. That all changed on the 3rd night. Around 2 a.m., I jolted awake in my tent. I wasn't sure what woke me at first. Then I heard it, twigs snapping, slow and rhythmic, like something was walking, circling my camp. I lay there, heart pounding, telling myself it was just a deer or a bear sniffing around. But then I heard breathing, deep, raspy, dragging in and out. It was too close, and it didn't sound like an animal. It was almost human, but not quite. I couldn't just stay still. I had to look. My hands were shaking as I crawled to the tent flap and unzipped it just enough to peek out. That's when I saw it, standing just beyond the trees, lit by the faint glow of my fading campfire. A tall, impossibly thin silhouette. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a person. Its arms hung too low, almost brushing its knees, and its head was tilted at this sickening, unnatural angle, like it didn't belong on its body. I couldn't see a face, just shadows, but I felt it staring right at me. My breath stopped as it stepped closer, then again, and then, clear as day, I heard it whisper my name, Daniel, low, guttural, like it was tasting the word. That snapped me out of it. I grabbed my pack, ripped the tent open, and ran. Branches clawed at me in the dark, but I kept going, stumbling until I reached the trailhead at dawn. I didn't dare look back. I haven't gone camping since that night. Sometimes, when it's too quiet, I can still hear that voice echoing in my head. I shared this online, and some people from northern Michigan said it might be the Pine Watcher, something tall and twisted they've talked about for years, lurking in the woods, watching anyone who strays too far. Others think I was just exhausted, that shadows played tricks on me in the dark. Maybe they're right, but I can't let it go. How did it know my name? Was it all in my head, or is it still out there, waiting for the next hiker to wander into its path? I was a truck driver then, hauling a load through rural Oregon in the middle of a brutal winter night. The fog was thick that night, rolling in like a blanket, swallowing the road ahead. Visibility was next to nothing, just a gray wall pressing against my windshield. I'd done long, lonely drives like this 100 times before, so I was used to the quiet hum of my engine and the endless highway stretching out. But that night, something changed. Something I saw that I'll never forget. The fog was so dense I could barely see the lines on the road. I slowed my truck to a crawl, headlights cutting through the haze, but it didn't help much. The light just bounced back, blinding me. I was out there alone, miles from the nearest town, on a stretch where you don't expect to see anyone. Then, out of nowhere, my CB radio crackled. I hadn't touched it, hadn't called a soul, but this low, guttural hum poured out of the speakers. Not words, not static, just a deep, vibrating noise that made the hairs on my neck stand up. I switched it off, thinking it was a glitch. But the humming didn't stop. It got louder, heavier, and then I realized it wasn't the radio anymore. It was coming from outside, pushing through the fog like it was all around me. My grip tightened on the wheel. I squinted into the mist, and that's when I saw it, a shape looming up ahead, slicing through the fog. I slammed on the brakes, tires screeching as it stepped onto the highway. It was huge, at least 8 feet tall, moving on 2 legs, but its body was all wrong, too long, too twisted, like something had stretched it out of shape. I caught a glimpse of antlers, jagged, branching things sticking out of its head. But this wasn't a deer. It lurched forward, slow and unnatural, then stopped right in my headlights. It turned toward me, and I swear I saw eyes, pale, glowing dots in the dark. Before I could think, it opened its mouth and screamed. A high-pitched, jagged sound, like metal tearing apart. It shook my windshield, rattled through my chest. Then, just like that, it stepped back into the fog and vanished, gone like it was never there. I sat there, engine idling, hands trembling, until I could make myself drive again. I got to the next truck stop, called in sick, and quit my job a week later. I told a few people about it, and they all asked the same thing. Are you sure it wasn't a moose or a deer in the fog? But I know what I saw. Nothing natural moves like that. Nothing screams like that. Some folks mentioned the Wendigo, a creature from old Native American stories, a twisted thing that stalks the wild. Others said I was just tired, my mind playing tricks. I don't care what they think. That scream still echoes in my nightmares. Those eyes still stare at me when I close mine. Whatever it was, it took something from me that night. A piece of calm I'll never get back. I just moved into an old house in rural Kentucky, a fixer-upper I snagged for cheap, complete with a rough, unfinished basement. It had a certain charm, creaky floors and all, but it also had these odd little noises I figured were just the house settling. I didn't think much of it at first, until I found something that made me realize this place was hiding more than I'd bargained for. That first week was pretty normal mostly. I was busy unpacking, trying to make the place mine, but every now and then I'd hear it. Faint tapping from the basement, sharp and irregular, like nails scraping concrete. At first, it was easy to brush off. Old houses make sounds, right? I'd laugh about it, tell myself it was just pipes or maybe mice. But then one morning, I saw something that froze me. Claw marks on the basement door, deep, jagged lines scratched into the wood, fresh enough that splinters were still hanging there. I hadn't heard anything loud enough to cause that. One night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The tapping got louder, keeping me awake. Curiosity, or maybe just dumb stubbornness, took over. I grabbed a flashlight and headed down those creaky stairs into the damp, heavy air. My light swept the room and hit a corner. There was a pile of loose dirt, heaped up like something had dug it out. It wasn't there before. Then I heard it, a fast, low skittering, scraping across the floor, coming from the shadows. My heart was pounding as I swung the flashlight around, desperate to see what was making that sound. And there it was, caught in the beam, a pale, human-like thing crawling on all fours. Its limbs were bent backward, joints twisted in ways they shouldn't be, like a spider draped in skin. Its eyes glinted like wet glass, locking onto me, staring right through me. I froze for a second, trapped in that gaze. Then it hissed, a sharp, wet sound that bounced off the walls. Before I could even scream, it scrambled toward a hole in the concrete I'd never noticed, moving too fast, too wrong, and vanished into the dark. My flashlight slipped from my hand, hitting the floor with a clatter, and I ran, up the stairs, slamming the door, locking it tight. I didn't stop until I was sure nothing was behind me. I didn't stick around long after that. Within a month, I'd packed up and left, abandoning the house and whatever was down there. I posted about it online, and people had opinions. Some called it a crawler, a thing that's supposed to lurk underground, pale and twisted, thriving on fear, or maybe worse. Others said it was just a squatter, some poor person with a messed up body hiding out. But I don't buy that. Squatters don't move like that, don't disappear into walls. The new owners moved in after me, but they won't talk about the basement, won't answer a thing. Maybe they sealed it off. Maybe they found something they're too scared to admit. That house is still standing, and so is whatever's beneath it. The world's a vast, strange place, and not every shadow follows the rules we know. If you've ever had your own run-in with the unexplainable, something that kept you up at night, drop it in the comments below. I will read every single one. Hit that like button if these stories sent a shiver down your spine, and subscribe if you're ready for more dark tales to come. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, maybe double check your locks tonight.